as you know about all this rotating the field around, and one of the ideas was to use my rectangular coils to create the a field in the generator, whereas the magnetic field is passing by. We have the anti-drag system working more efficiently, so that as it's leaving, we have more anti-drag propulsion. Now the problem is it's basically fighting against the laws of physics, obviously, which is what we've been doing all along, really trying to fight against that, and physics is something that I'm not brilliant with, but certain basic mechanical, I've just made this one today actually, I was just picking some plastic off it. So what I was thinking about obviously was the arrangement of the magnets on the segment, is that the ones on the outside on the exit point to have the field reversed, because when you're in a retraction, when the field is basically when it's entering the magnetic array, it's drawn in because of the increase in the waveform, as the waveform's increasing to the peak as we're coming in. But the problem is my coils are so widely spaced out because of the way they are. Part of the coil is intersecting the entry point, while the other part of the coil is intersecting the exit point. So what happens is, if you got the magnets arranged on the exit point in the opposite direction, you still have an equal amount of field on the other side of the coil, which is cancelling out that anti-drag effect that I'm trying to get. So what the idea was, by using the rectangular coil, my plan was to do tests just with the middle coils, which is I was doing on the meter, to see how much more efficient it is. But obviously there's less voltage on this little coil. We only gain about half a volt with these little coils, by the way. So it adds up to the overall output, because there's two of these, so we gain about a volt in total with the amount of wire that's on there at the moment. So what I was thinking about was cascading, so that each coil, right, so when the coil, each one of these coils, obviously there's no wire on these bobbins right now, but if each coil has its independent capacitor across it, and they're cascaded, and as the rotor is passing by, and they're basically in that formation, like sort of like that, so that as the segment is passing by, I'll try and hold it a little bit like this so you can see, as the segment is passing by, that we have the capacitor across this coil is charged, and as it's leaving, that capacitor remains charged, holding that coil engaged to create some attraction on the next segment that's coming in. And then this is a cascade, so the coil here with a capacitor across this one also becomes charged, but in series. So what we have then is each coil basically is inducing a field independently on the other segment that's coming in, while this segment's leaving. It's bloody well hard to explain. It really gives me a headache, but I'm basically stuck at the moment because I haven't been thinking lately very well. I've been distracting myself with other things because I've just needed a bit of a break, and I'm just absolutely tired out, really. I'm just worn out. What with this eye infection going on and all that other issues going on, I just feel like I'm just tired, really. I'm tired. I mean, it's like 6 years now I've been working on this stuff, and it's just, your brain turns to jelly after a while. You need to get out of it. It's like being in the same. It's like being in a traffic jam. Imagine you're in a traffic jam, right? And you're waiting in a queue and you're moving ahead a little bit at a time, and it would drive you crazy. Well, that's what it's like for me with this situation. Trying to nudge my way forward, and basically one car at a time, sort of thing, and I'm making progress, but at the same time, I can't see the end of where the traffic jam ends. You know what I mean? I'm in that situation right now, and I'm just feeling a bit out of it. So, it's hard work. So, but I am close to something here. It's the exit point that is the problem. Now, what I've been thinking about doing is swapping them, is reversing my magnets on the exit point again, on the exit point, because I turn them around, and before, when I had capacitors across there, the capacitors were assisting in moving it forward, in cancelling more drag, but when you put a load on it, it created more drag. Whereas now, when I put a load on it, I have less drag, but when the coil is collapsed, when the field is totally collapsed by a load, which is what's happening, I'm not getting sufficient forward thrust. So there's a real, I'm losing there. There's losses. So I'm trying to work around that to figure it out. Now, what I did find originally was that current seems to be more beneficial to this, using low impedance coils on the exit point than high impedance coils. Now, when the voltage is higher, when the voltage is going higher up, we see more drag. So we get a relation between higher voltages versus lower voltages. Now, we can draw more current out at lower voltages with less drag, but that's not what we want. We want more voltage. But every time I get more voltage out of this system, we see a huge exponentially increase in drag. So this is where I'm at really right now, and it's the relationship between the current and the voltage. So I seem to gain more current, obviously, with a lower voltage, which is, yeah, it's all, it's hard to put it into words really. It's relative. I mean, ultimately it's all to do with watts really. You do get more power, more current with lower voltage, but it's the watts really, and I haven't really been measuring that, to be honest with you, because my meter doesn't measure watts. I do have a meter that measures watts, but it's the power analyzer thing. I can't remember where I put that anyway, somewhere around. Yeah, I'll have to get that. Yeah, when I get these other coils wound, it'll be easier to measure stuff, because that watt meter, that wattage meter, the power analyzer needs at least 5-6 volts RMS really to be of use, I think, because of voltage drops because of rectification and all that stuff. But I have got more than that. I've got 8 volts at the moment with this current system, but the problem is, at the moment, I just haven't got the system right, because when I put a load on it, we do see a significant drop in RPM, and obviously until I can get past that point, there's no point sticking a wattage meter on it anyway, because that's not going to tell that. I mean, all the watts do is give you an accurate relationship between when you're comparing between two different scenarios. But with this current system, all I'm trying to do is just basically not slow down when I've got a load on it. And as I say, as I get the voltage higher on it, I start to see more more of a slowdown. So yeah, it's just been giving me a headache. So anyway, I'm just basically waiting for some inspiration, an idea, with a light bulb going up in my head. So, and that happens occasionally, but for some reason at the moment, I'm in this traffic jam. Yeah, I don't know what else to do right now, but I'm sure some of you out there have got all sorts of ideas, but you know, trust me, I've already thought of it. I mean, I've been thinking about so many different ideas just lately. I mean, obviously the mirror idea, using the reflectors. Now, the reason why that worked really well was because it basically simulated what the magnets are doing now. Now, what the reflector was doing when it was on the back of the coil is the magnets, the coil between, when the coil's between the magnets and the reflectors, what happens there is that as the magnets are passing the coil, it induces a field in the coil, right? And as it's leaving the other side, the field switches places. So instead of the field being effectively from the magnet on the front side of the coil, it's channeled backwards through the reflector on the back side of the coil, and it was the equal opposite reaction that was coming along the reflectors on the back of the coil that was increasing the acceleration. And that worked quite well, but unfortunately it can't work 100% because there's no way to screen off that field 100% on the front side of the coil as it interacts with the reflectors on the back. Now, the reason I abandoned that, the reason why I decided not to use the reflectors, is because they themselves were inducing a huge amount of drag on the system. So I wasn't gaining much really. All I was gaining was a fraction of the amount of which I lost through the drag inducement of the reflectors. You see what I'm talking about? So just to try and give you some rough ideas. Right, imagine that the reflectors caused, say, 30% drag, right? By having the reflectors there, and as the magnets were passing the coil and interacting with reflectors just as they were leaving the coil, I was probably gaining something like 15% of anti-drag, so it was accelerating slightly. So, but overall, the reflectors were still causing more drag than what I was gaining from the interaction, is what I'm saying. So there was no point in them being there in the first place because they were slowing everything right down. So I think when I was doing those tests with the reflectors, I was something around 800 RPM, and I was consuming something like nearly 300 milliamps to drive the whole thing. So I decided against the reflectors because they were causing too much drag which I couldn't offset. The magnet arrangement, using the magnets, I use this other thing as the magnet motor idea. Using the magnets is a better idea because they're actually moving. They're not actually stationary, so they don't cause drag. And because they're actually moving on the rotor against the coil, we don't have the lensing effect or the braking effect from a stationary object, because they're actually moving with the actual actuator magnets, the power generation magnets. So that is the reason why I decided to go with the magnet arrays instead of the reflectors on the back of the coil, because they're much more efficient. They are much more efficient, and we see a greater effect in slowdown. Well, we see a greater effect in RPM fluctuation at higher speeds only because it's at the peak of its maximum speed. So if I remove the load, I might only gain 100 RPM or 50, 60 RPM. Whereas with the reflectors that are on there, by removing them, I would gain something like 500-600 RPM, right? You see what I'm saying? So the reflectors cause much more drag on the system than what the magnets do, because they're actually moving with the power generation magnets as well. You know, we've got the obviously these want to propel themselves along, you know, as you know, because it's like the magnet motor idea. So I'm just hang on a minute. So this thing, let's see, I've got the biasing wrong way around here. Right, so as this thing, when you have a field, a magnet, push it against it, it wants to move along, which is why I incorporated this arrangement into the rotors, the segments. So when the lens effect takes effect, it's supposed to push it forwards instead of drag it backwards, right? Now that works to a certain point, but like a mess. But I think, to be honest, I'm missing something here. I'm missing something with my arrangement. Either I need to keep the coils confined, in a smaller window area, so that as we transition through the field, we're not interacting with the entry point as much, or I need to rethink the magnet arrangements overall. So I'm just, yeah, stumbling about in the dark a little bit at the moment. It's driving me crazy right now. But yeah, so I've been trying to take a little bit of time off with it, to be honest, because you can spend too much time thinking about something and it doesn't come to you, and it might even be that it's unsolvable. It might just be that the whole thing is insolvable. But I mean, generally speaking, that's what the conventional science says anyway, that it's an unsolvable, I can't say the word, insoluble bubble. Anyway, but you see, that's part of the fun, really, and that's what I forget sometimes. We have to remember that this is supposed to be fun. You're supposed to enjoy this kind of research, and when it starts to get you down and it starts to impact on your mental health and your state of mind, that's time when you need to back off a little bit, and that's what I'm trying to do right now. I'm just trying to back out of it a little bit, and you know, wait, hopefully something will come to me, you know, a deja vu moment or something, or the light bulb going off. Yeah, so I just wanted to give you a heads up on the way I am at the moment. So that's the reason why I'm not making many videos right now, is because of where I am. Anyway, I hope you found this video useful. I'm just letting you know where I am, so okay, take care, we'll see you later.